Okay, enough dilly-dallying. Let's talk about Atomfall real quick. Spencer's been waiting so patiently. Let's see. Here we go.
Join me on a violent journey through the English countryside, aka 90 Minutes with Atomfall, the new survival action game from Sniper Elite developer Rebellion. I recently visited a pub in North London, which isn't too odd for me, but managed to get some hands-on playtime with the game there, and came away intrigued by Atomfall's open-ended approach to mission design and eerie tone. I also may have lost my mind and decided to attack everyone I saw, including an old lady who likely didn't deserve it. Let me explain why.
So, in case you're not familiar, Atomfall, upcoming game, it's being compared to old school Fallout. Old school British Fallout. Have I piqued your interest? He just alluded to one thing, which is a staple of old school, like, Fallout games, which has since been stripped out. If you remember back in Fallout New Vegas, there's a console command, and if you don't play on PC, all that means is that you tap the like tilde key on your keyboard and then you type in a command and it applies to the whole game. You can use it to like change character levels or toggle god mode, no collision, whatever. There is a command that simply is called kill all, and you could type that in and all it does is it kills every single NPC in the game. They drop dead, and you can use that console command in like Fallout 4. I believe you can use it in Starfield. You can use it in Fallout New Vegas. But in Fallout 4 and Starfield, there are many characters, usually tied to quest objectives, that are immune from death. You cannot kill them. I mean, you know, like you shoot them, they drop to all fours, breathe heavily, and then they hop up and they're fine. In Fallout New Vegas, you could kill everybody. Like you put in that console command and everybody drops dead and they start, like you just get quest failed for like 15 minutes, as every quest in the game is failed because you killed off the quest givers and couldn't complete anything. And I'm not saying that anybody's like doing that for gameplay. The point is to demonstrate that in New Vegas, everybody's fair game. There is no NPC, there is no quest giver that is immune from your insanity. If you want to play as a raving lunatic, or if you go into Good Springs and you're just like, you know what? I don't like these people. I'm going to kill everybody and I'm going to rob them all. You can do that. Your reputation will be poor with them, but you can do that. And they enable you to do that. They empower you to do that. That was something that I think is, the fact it was stripped out of later Bethesda games was representative of their kind of watering down of the roleplay experience, because they didn't want to give you the ability to do that because it didn't jive with their broader design goals, which was to keep players more on a tight track, to try to tell a more compelling narrative. And if you killed the quest giver, you couldn't do that. But my point has always been, if you let players break the game, they will respect the consequences more. Just like if you're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and if you haven't seen this, you commit a bunch of crimes, you steal from people, you kill NPCs, whatever, you will be arrested by the city guard or whatever. And if you've committed serious enough offenses, they will hold a hanging and hang Henry. And you get a game over screen, you failed, done. And what does that do? It makes the player respect the consequences of their actions way more. They will be more immersed. They'll take their decisions more seriously. And I think players connect with that, especially and specifically perhaps role-playing fans. You need to have that. Not every game needs to have that. You know, I'm not saying that Split Fiction or It Takes Two needs to have that type of thing. But for RPGs, I think it is important that you respect the player's choices, whether they do a pacifist Jesus playthrough or they go the opposite and do a hardcore, like, mass murdering psychopath playthrough. I think you should try and support both sides of the coin. It's my opinion. So hearing that Atomfall is enabling players to pursue that same old school methodology and thought process, that gets me excited for this, because it shows that they're building the game anticipating players to do all sorts of crazy shenanigans. And I like that.
Every NPC in Atomfall can be killed, from the lowliest grunt to the most important quest giver. As I sit down to start the demo, I decide that my mission is to test that design. I'll admit that my approach is inelegant. Barely 2 minutes into my exploration of this digital Cumbria, I clumsily activate a tripwire alarm that results in me having to end the lives of 3 alerted guards. I do so with the blunt face of a cricket bat, a hefty chunk of wood that's christened as my murder partner with a liberal splash of claret. Careful. I later loot a bow and arrow, and being the glutton for archery in games that I am, I quickly equip it. Now I'm set for long and short range encounters, and so can let Mr. Cricket Bat take a well-earned rest. Nearby I spot a hulking wicker man, towering over me and waiting to be set alight. But I'm not going near that. I've seen how that story ends.
Christ! Oh Lord!
Unironically, one of my favorite quests from AC Valhalla. If you've not played that, you might not know what I'm referring to, but there's a whole Wicker Man quest in AC Valhalla. It's one of the highlights. Just being honest, being real. Also, do we have Brits in chat? I need to know from where is this accent like originating from? Specifically the like THs or Fs. I thought about it. That kind of thing. Where is that accent from? Which area of England? The England part? West London. It's the Courtney accent over there. I don't know why I asked. Over there. It's from over there. Oh man. I had an acting well, not acting, it was a director in a play I did, and there was a character who had a British accent, and the poor girl that was doing it, she did like the Cockney accent, and the director said it made her sound poor and like Jack the Ripper was coming after her. And I thought that was like an aggressive way to correct like a young girl on her accent dialect. It was like, you went 0 to 60 real quick. But I don't know if that's even accurate. Like, did people in Whitechapel speak like that? Maybe. Is it kind of, I don't know if it's racist. It's like dialectist, if that's a thing. Like, you know how in America we all assume like there's this sort of media stereotypical thing where it's like, oh, if you talk with like a southern drawl, you must be like a farmer or a cowboy. That's just the assumption, even though that's not technically true. Like, it's just not, you know, but everybody just kind of assumes it because of the dialect. It's similar to that, where like you assume because they've got the Cockney accent that therefore they're about to get chopped, or whatever you guys say. I don't know. London is, and England is, a fascinatingly silly place. I'm just going to be real with you. Very entertaining.
Sites like this nod to the folk horror undertones that serve as the bedrock for this region of Atomfall's segmented world, which is made up of multiple open zones. It generates a convincingly uneasy atmosphere that only feeds into the larger mystery I'm trying to crack. What exactly happened here in this rural, now irradiated corner of England? But my thoughts about such a mystery are interrupted by a rabble of druids, who presumably have something to do with that Wicker Man. They prove the perfect rangefinders for my newly acquired bow. 1, 2, 3, see you later. The bow feels good to fire, but I'm more interested in Atomfall's smart approach to stamina. A traditional depleting and regenerating bar is nowhere to be found, instead replaced by a heart rate monitor that increases the more you perform physically taxing actions. Sprinting for an extended period will push you well over 140 BPM, for example, making it harder for you to aim steadily and accurately if you suddenly have to stop and fight. Later, I found a bow.
Well, dude, that's just cool. I can't think of another game that like tried to reinvent stamina bars. Can you guys think of anything like that? Like, the extent I've seen is that, oh, you depleted your stamina bar, now you gotta wait, catch your breath, and catch up with it. But this is tied to heart rate, and so the longer you're doing sustained physical activities, or like in a fight or running or whatever, it takes more time for it to slow down. So it's not just like you exerted yourself hard, wait 5 seconds, and now you're back to normal. It's like, no, you just sprinted for 5 minutes straight. It's going to take you a couple minutes to calm down and be able to perform normally. That's interesting. Sniper Elite. Oh yeah, well, I mean, they made Sniper Elite, so that's not a shocker. But I mean, in this genre, in this like type of open world adventure type game, I don't know if Sniper Elite even counts as open world adventure. Like they have large maps, but it's not really an adventure game, you know? Anyway, that's super cool. I like that. That's very interesting.
Mastery skill.
Red Dead, I guess Red Dead with the cores and then the meters around the cores are sort of like that. It's not as like clear cut as this, but I guess you're right. Because the longer you use your stamina, for example, it depletes the core, which limits how much the bar can actually fill up or how quickly it fills up or whatever. So I guess technically, yeah, Red Dead sort of does a slightly altered version of it, but that's interesting.
Manual that unlocks a perk that negates the impact of a heightened heartbeat has on drawing the bowstring back. It's not exactly the most exciting perk in history, and a browse through the menu suggests Atomfall doesn't boast the most complex skill tree suite. However, it does seem malleable enough to tailor your character's skills to a gameplay style of your choosing, if for example, you'd prefer to specialise in stealth over gunplay. With my only achievement so far being a bunch of dead druids, you may rightfully be wondering what my overall goal is here. And to an extent, so was I. Aimless exploration of the Casterfall Woods region had yet to unearth anything significant, so I followed my only quest lead, a note pointing me in the direction of a herbalist, Mother Jago, who lives near an old mine. Along the way I spot allusions to the greater story at play, as a shimmering, oily swirl of blues and purples hovers over a power plant, the apparent cause of Britain's descent into the post-apocalypse. Nearby, a phone box rings and a creepy voice warns me to stay out of the woods.
The woods are dangerous. Be careful.
It's too late for that, mate, but thanks for the call anyway. The path is littered with similar small environmental story touches, such as an old boathouse rigged with an unsettling alarm system, the words "Get Lost" painted across it, a warning the nearby mound of skulls and bones seemingly didn't heed. There's an enjoyably uneasy vibe around every corner of Atomfall, with sleepy leafy forests giving way to creepy zones of terror. Plenty of Fallout comparisons have been made ever since its reveal, but I think Stalker in its recent sequel is a far more apt touchstone, both in terms of tone and game design. Following yet another druid massacre in which I butcher them and loot their garden center.
I mean, I think a Fallout being differentiated in many ways by like the writing and the tone, like the sort of irreverent, silly approach to very serious situations, you know, where it's like things are horrible, but you can see this silly, like quirky, cute little cartoon for like your skill up for your like level up. You select it and it shows him like with a pistol blowing off somebody's head in a horribly gory way and then giving a thumbs up. It's that kind of like silly, lighthearted dichotomy that I think really works well for Fallout. And this, I mean, I think a lot of it, excuse me, I think a lot of it could come down to the music too, because Fallout has some amazing music, and there's something about treading through the post-apocalypse with like a kind of lighthearted, kind of upbeat, kind of rocker vibe music. Rocker vibe? What the hell is that? Like Rat Pack, that kind of music. That is so unique to Fallout. I wonder if they're doing something similar with the music here. I wonder if he'll talk about that.
Center home for herbs, a quick time event, if you will. I meet Mother Jago at her quaint allotment retreat. Dressed in a plum-coloured coat, an animal skull and rose-laden hat, she resembles Angela Lansbury if she'd got big into black magic aromatherapy instead of crime.
Who's Angela Lansbury? Is this like an old Nancy Drew monk kind of show? Is this like an old school detective show? I feel like Murder, She Wrote. I've heard of Murder, She Wrote. I've never watched it. I'm more of a Monk guy. I like Monk. You remember Monk, that show? So good. So good. Psych was good for a bit. Now I go back and I've seen like my parents will watch it and I see Psych episodes and I'm like, I don't know, it's cringier than I remember it being. But Monk still is goated, I think, in my humble opinion.
solving, but my hopes that she can make Atomfall's opaque mystery any clearer are immediately dashed. She gives only vague answers to my questions, despite exhausting every dialogue option as I dig for clues as to where to go next. This reminds me of classic point-and-click adventures in the way you're encouraged to explore every corner of conversation in search of a hint. Eventually, a door is opened. Jago offers what she promises to be valuable information in exchange for the safe return of her herbalism book.
Nothing worth killing over, you understand?
A book that is, of course, not in a library, but held hostage at the druid's fortified castle. So, with a new lead in my notebook, I traipse back across the map in search of recipes and the druid blood protecting it. Atomfall's free-form design means I'm able to approach from any angle, and so I decide to attack the castle from the side. As I make my way there, I encounter another druid patrol near an abandoned petrol station. The surely soon-to-be considered historic Battle of the Forecourt kicks off as I lob my only grenade into the middle of them. The enemy AI isn't the most reactive, rarely darting for cover or really engaging in any evasive maneuvers, but the satisfying eruption of blood and bits of bone does alert a couple of archers from further down the road. I quickly put a halt to their advance with a nail bomb and then proceed to slalom their arrows, quickly closing the distance so that I can snap one's neck before getting my trusty bat out for another round of head smashing. There's definitely fun to be had playing around with these enemies, but from the small sample I've had so far, I wouldn't go into Atomfall looking for top tier combat. Instead, it seems wise to treat enemy encounters more like a fun sideshow to the main event of discovering the world's secrets. After sniping a couple of axe-wielding
Enemy AI is always so interesting to me as like a point in video games, because for some games it's like a make or break. If you have bad AI, it can ruin so many different things. And for certain types of games, I think it's more noticeable than others. And then I also think it's tied to the type of like encounters, you know? Like with Star Wars Outlaws, at launch, it had really bad AI. What I recommended in my review was if you're going to play it at launch, play it with the difficulty cranked out the ass. Like crank the difficulty super high so that if you're like stealthing and they do notice you, like you've got to deal with the problem instantly. Otherwise they can like two-shot you. Because then, you know, you don't really have time to notice how stupid the AI is. It just kind of forces you forward in the gameplay. And that's a technique that I think a lot of studios use. If they don't have great AI, they set up environments or they set up encounters in ways that make it harder to notice how stupid enemies are. You know, put 5 of them in a small room. There's nowhere for them to hide, so you won't notice that they're not hiding, you know, that type of thing. And I think with a game like this, encouraging slower, more tactical gameplay, it could be way more noticeable if NPCs are really, really stupid. I could totally see that, you know. Yeah, Division 2 AI is fantastic. Yeah, there are certain games that absolutely nail it. I appreciate when you have a range, you know, if you've got like a more approachable AI for people that want to be able to go through the game and have an easier time. I tend to like much more realistic AI. The problem is realistic AI doesn't always mean fun AI, you know? Like right here, this guard down here and this guy up here should be able to see the player. You're hiding behind a rock, not that far away in broad daylight. Yeah, you're in a shadow, but like it's the middle of the day. They should be able to see you. But if you're playing a video game and you hide behind this rock, your expectation is basically that you're probably safe. But if they noticed you, then they both alert. All of a sudden, your stealth, like your cover's blown. That might not feel fun. It may be realistic, but it may not be fun. So it's always a balancing act. And I think the easiest way out of it is to just give 2 options: a dumbed down AI version and a really cranked up version of the AI for people that like the challenge and like having to think, oh, they're going to see me if I stand right here. So let me go around the side of this house, around the back, take out this guy after throwing a rock to distract him. And then I'm going to throw something over here to distract the guard up here while I climb up the ladder and jump him. Make the player think about that. But so, not everybody loves that. So just make 2 versions, 2 options, you know, dial back the intelligence.
Brutes, I make it inside the castle's outer walls. There, I stumble across a locked hut. A note printed with a set of map coordinates pinned to its door suggests that the keys are far away to the southeast. Atomfall doesn't believe in objective markers, instead leaving it up to you to study your map and place down markers on points of interest yourself. Could this locked up be where the book is hidden? Do I need to go on a quest for this key? My hunch tells me no, and I instead walk up to the central keep's big front doors. Once inside, I find a few more druids to club, but no sign of the book. I hunt around its dank hallways, finding nothing but cloth and alcohol to craft healing bandages with. I spend a good 10 minutes searching every corner, but no luck. It's a further example of Atomfall's obtuse approach to mission design. You won't have your hand held here, and the book won't glow gold with a big pick-me-up sign attached. While it can lead to moments of frustration, I find myself ultimately encouraged by Rebellion's approach to make something that challenges the player and sticks stubbornly to its explorative, almost detective-like vision. So,
I love that, but I also totally understand why some people would hate it. You know? But I respect the fact that they're not trying to appeal to everybody, you know? I think like KCD2 is a great example of this, where it has a few game systems which are not that approachable. Like they are not mass market kind of design choices. Chief among them being things like the save system, requiring you to save your schnapps to actually save while you're out and about, or you have to go to a bed and sleep. Yes, technically you can just like save scum by save and exiting. You can technically do that, but that's not recommended. But like, I respect the fact that they designed it in a way where they want you to constantly be thinking, I've got to go find a place to sleep. I've got to go find a place to stay. Okay, I'm going to go do this quest, but then I'm going to be exhausted. So I need to go back over here. And while I'm there, I'm going to buy a pretzel from the baker. Like they want you to think about it that way. And so they designed the game in a way that encouraged you to play it in that way. And I think, the first few hours, it might be really jarring or frustrating if you just got off of like AC Valhalla, which is kind of the opposite. It's designed to be played in sort of a lighthearted, half paying attention kind of way. But once it clicks with you, oh my God. KCD2, once it clicks with you, is like, oh, it's so good. So good. Oh my God, I love it.
With the book nowhere in sight, I decide to follow the paper trail and head to those map coordinates in search of the keys I previously read about. Perhaps this would unlock my path forward. The coordinates led me into the den of a poison plant monster thing that seems to boil my brain if I spend too long near it. Rifle bullets make minimal impact, and there's little I can do to prevent my quick death. I reload my save and use my Skyrim bunny hopping muscle memory to bypass the beast, leaping down a rock face to collect the keys from one of the creature's earlier victims.
That's one of the moments where I'm like, do you think the devs expected you to do that? There's probably something where like, oh, you need to craft a Molotov and chuck it at the plant and then it burns it up. That's probably what you're supposed to do. But that old school Skyrim bunny hop up the side of a cliff, or like, you remember in Skyrim when you would like do the weird zigzag run up the steep cliff? And it literally is like, this steep. You should not be able to climb up it, but if you just run back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you can get up eventually. Oh, those were the days, man. Those were the days.
I then head back to the hut where I find a shiny new perk point and a smattering of ammo. As you'll no doubt be aware, none of these items resemble the herbalism book that I'm trying to find. Forlorn and slightly lost, I venture under the castle and deep into its bowels, where the druids concoct their rituals and chemical-fueled practices. I kill the High Priestess and about a dozen of her lackeys, find an SMG, a recipe for crafting poison bombs, and an atomic battery, which seemingly opens up a whole new questline that I simply don't have time to look into before my demo time runs out.
You will require more atomic batteries. You will require them for the interchange.
Again, the observant among you will notice that none of these items are the book I'm looking for. After my play session ends, I'm told the book was in the castle, just lying on a table I must have walked past several times. Before that revelation though, I start to believe the book simply does not exist, that it is a ruse, a lie. I decide to go back to the herbalist and see if she has anything to say for herself. She doesn't, of course, because the book is...
Dude, I've always thought of this, and if I, get around to making my own full game, I've got design docs I've written up and stuff, but obviously I haven't really had the time to do it. But one of the ideas I have found that's so interesting to me, that would piss off so many people, but I think it could be so interesting, is if characters within the game openly lied to the player. Because it's kind of an understood thing that NPCs will tell you the truth. Or if they're going to lie to you, there will be some indication that they're lying to you, And isn't it kind of funny to think that like, oh no, the NPC, like she could just totally lie to you and be like, yeah, there's this book I need. when in reality, she just wants you to maybe go in there, either kill the extremists so that she can, or whatever he called them, druids, and then she can go in there and collect loot and stuff, or, you know, you die, no sweat off her back, she's fine, whatever, one less person to bug her. And she doesn't tell you that because she doesn't need to tell you that, but she just lies to you and there's no book or anything. I think it could be really funny and also like really frustrating at the same time. But once you have that first moment where you realize an NPC lied to me, imagine how that cascades down, how that affects all the other stuff you do while you're playing. Next time you get a quest from somebody and they tell you, okay, I will help you, but I need you to go and I need you to save my buddy who's been captured by these bandits over here. You pause and you wonder, is he actually going to help me? Does he actually have a buddy that's trapped there? Is this a trap? Is he just going to jump me with he's going to get his buddy and go meet me at the place where he told me to go, but this time with a bunch of his friends, and they're going to try to attack me once my guard is down? You know, it'll lead to cascading things that heighten your senses. It's one of the reasons, hold on, I still have this pulled up. Slight spoiler for The Last of Us Part 2, okay? This whole idea of like, once you're not safe because NPCs can lie to you and stuff, it's similar to what happened in it's similar to what happened in The Last of Us Part 2, where you go and I guess I don't have the kind of important to have the spoiler text also here. It's similar to what happens here, because what happens is you go to like the crafting bench. You've done this a bajillion times in the game before. And then there's a whole combat sequence that plays out. It would be like getting jumped while you're in the main menu, or you go into the options menu to change whether VSync is turned on, and you get jumped like that. It's so cool. But once that happens, you're not safe. You know you're not safe. And so it raises the tension, raises the stakes, makes you sit up and pay more attention, because it could happen at any other time. And I don't know about you guys. The next time, like, I was at a crafting station, I was like kind of anxious. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so I think lock it in. I think I want a game, an RPG. I want it to lie to me. I want to see what happens when that happens. Continue.
But my own confusion manifests as fully buying into my character's descent into violence, and so I kill her. She becomes one with her plants in the soil. Searching her body for some kind of hidden truth, I find a recipe for something that would appear to help combat the poison swamp monster I encountered earlier. It's too late for that, but I assume this is the valuable information she was going to exchange her book for. We could have saved a lot of time here, it seems. Not that you can shave a huge amount of time off of Atomfall's runtime. I'm told by the developers at Rebellion that you'd struggle to finish the story in less than 4 or 5 hours, and that most players will take around 25. Quite what will happen over those 25 hours could be quite varied though.
Dude, that's a crazy swing. So the devs, without like speed running stuff, the devs are saying you could do it within like 4 to 5 hours, but most people will take 25. That's a crazy swing. Huh. That's wild. But I'm guessing in order to do that, you have to know exactly where to go, what to do. You need to know exactly what to take from where. I'm sure that's not like an easy ending you're gonna stumble into your first playthrough, but it's cool that they've at least anticipated that.
To someone else at the demo session who went on an entirely different adventure to mine. One that started with a crashed helicopter I never encountered and led to a whole new region filled with killer robots and mutants. It appears that even by just skimming the surface of Atomfall, there are many depths, secrets and mysteries to be found. I do wonder if some of the objectives may be too obtuse for some though. The lack of direction could certainly be off-putting, but Atomfall feels like a game that rewards you the more you indulge in its obfuscated quest design. The blurred lines between the side and main objectives add a real peril to every action, with its malleable
I'm sorry, that was just funny. There's a gigantic sign.
Lines between the side and main
Minefield. There's two. I didn't see the second one. There's a second gigantic sign that says minefield. So he just walks right between the two death signs and blows up.
Objectives add a real peril to every action, with its malleable plot design encouraging each player to tell their own tale, to find their own ending and explanation for what has happened here in the irradiated English countryside. I'll still see the end of the story, despite killing off poor old Mother Jago. It may just be wildly different from yours, but that's all I have time to see today. For now, my hands bloodied from the undeserved demise of a herbalist and the warpath I've left behind, I decide to engage in full British mode. Take my cricket bat, head to the pub, and wait for this all to blow over. For more Atomfall, check out the latest in-depth game overview trailer, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
Honestly, looks kind of fire. I think, you know, one of the things that's been unfortunate with the heightened development costs for a lot of these games is that AA games kind of started to get weeded out a little bit. Game Pass made them much more viable because they could go on Game Pass, assuming the deal they got on Game Pass was good. And, you know, games that people previously would have been like, I don't know if I'm going to put $40 up, $50 up for that. You can play it on Game Pass and it fits much better. That's why I said Avowed, I think, is a perfect Game Pass title because it's a game not worth $70 in my opinion at all. But for Game Pass, yeah, sure, give it a shot. I think you can have fun with it. And this is something that seems similar, where being much shorter, much more focused, and certainly much more niche, I could see it being a tough sell to people on the total outside. But I respect a lot of the design choices. You know, too much British. 7 out of 10. Yeah, too much. I think it looks fine, not exactly wowed by it. I don't think this is one of those games that's going to like wow you. I think it's one of those games that's going to it knows what it's trying to do and it does nothing more. You know, it's a AA type of game that's much tighter in scope. It's going to have kind of bad AI, it's going to have clunky combat, but you're playing it for the writing, for the dynamics, and that's where you can have fun with it. It seems similar to like another game that I actually like and I think you should try, which is Vampire. This is a throwback. This was published by Focus before they were Focus Entertainment, but it's developed by Don't Nod. And it's a game that's also kind of in that AA space. It's really clunky. It doesn't have great combat. It's not a 10 out of 10 masterpiece or anything, but it's got some really clever, unique ideas, which, similar to Atomfall, you know, I think make it engaging enough. The whole mechanic here in this game is that you're a vampire and you have the option of feeding on residents of the city to gain power, basically levels to become more powerful, making the game easier, combat easier, but you're destroying the city in the process and whole districts will like collapse if you do that. But if you choose for narrative reasons, I'm not gonna give in. I'm not gonna give in to the urge of feeding on innocent civilians. You can still complete the game, but it is way more difficult because you're not feeding. You know, you're a vampire not feeding. You're going to be weaker. And so it's got some really clever, unique ideas that I think are really just interesting. I kind of hope they go back to it and do like a sequel, but it's a 2018 game. It's a throwback. But yeah, it's one I recommend you try. It's not like amazing, but it's got some really clever, interesting little tidbits there. Similar seemingly to Atomfall. And that's why I think these types of games that are more experimental, a little weirder, I think those are crucial for a healthy industry. And so Atomfall might not be for you, but hopefully at least you can appreciate why it exists. You know, the first KCD game was this way pretty much. Well, exactly. Like you look at KCD, it started as basically a kickstarted indie game in a lot of ways. And it was good. I really liked the first game, but it was clunky as hell. It needed a lot of work before it was like a strong recommend for everybody. And then you saw them learn from that. They were given a second chance to work on the sequel and do what they really wanted to do the first time around. And they nailed it. They nailed it. I mean, the second game was phenomenal. It was fantastic. And I would really hope that they got the chance to do like a Vampire 2. I don't think they did. Don't Nod. They are the same team. They did Banishers, and Lost Records. Prior to that, they did Jusant, Harmony, The Fall of Reverie. I don't know what that is. This looks like one of those games that would win games for impact. You know, seems like one of those. Twin Mirror, Tell Me Why, Life is Strange 2, and then they did Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. I've never heard of that one. And Vampire. So, and prior to that, they did Life is Strange. So, like, they've done some good stuff, but then they've done some really weird, more niche stuff. Vanishers, I don't think performed super well, which is kind of too bad. But Lost Records, I don't know, man. I just don't know why they keep doing the episodic thing. I can't stand the episodic stuff. Even if the game is good, breaking it up into two separate things. Like for me, it makes it so I'm not going to play it at launch because I'm waiting for the whole thing. Because I don't want to play half a game, wait 6 months and play the second one. Like I want to just play the game. Maybe some people don't care and are fine with it. But all that means is that I end up waiting until it's on sale, which is not what they want. You know, so I'm okay with it. I'm glad some people are. I mean, they're doing it because obviously it works for them. But for me, it's just such a turnoff, which is too bad. He took my thing.